I'm not entirely happy about the fact that we have a lot of abandoned buildings in and around Linden at the moment. Some of them are huge skyscrapers, some of them are slightly smaller apartment buildings, and one of them is a little house out in the suburbs. But what's particularly concerning about this entire thing is the fact that one of the abandoned buildings has collapsed, and now we have 24 hearses on the way to collect, well, everybody from that building. That's very much a bad thing. Although clicking on it, there is a fire engine that's being dispatched. This might have actually just burnt down as opposed to anything else. I'm just going to bulldoze this and I guess not worry about all those hearses coming out here. That feels like cheating, but it's something that the game lets me do, I think. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. Now, when it comes to all of these abandoned buildings, there are a variety of issues. This one, for example, is complaining about small homes and high noise pollution and unreliable internet. That's relatively consistent across all of the abandoned buildings. We've got these guys in here who are complaining about, well, high noise pollution at the very least, which is surprising because I feel like we haven't really had people complaining about those things until today, until I loaded the game up and saw a bunch of these buildings complaining about noise pollution. None of them were doing that before, and I don't know why. Now, I could absolutely go ahead and start tearing down these buildings and trying to tweak things a little bit, but I don't think it's going to do all that much for me because I'm noticing that we don't really have anything but low density residential demand right now. So I want to come into this space and I want to work on starting to fill it with some lower density residential buildings, but I'm also thinking it might be time to get rid of these farms over here. They're great. They're some of the first farms that we had, but I just don't think we need them anymore. And I feel like they're kind of in a weird spot. So I'm going to just, well, obviously tear all of those out. And I think I'm also going to try and get myself another couple of cul-de-sacs in here because we have this beautiful space for it. It seems like a good place for it. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and get our guidelines switched on. I want some relatively straight sections of road. And what I think I'm going to do is go to about here and we'll just do something like, well, I don't really know what distance to go for. We'll turn the guidelines back off for a second. We'll go for, I don't know, 10 units seems like a pretty good bet. And then we can turn the guidelines back on and hopefully get these guys to be somewhat parallel. I don't want them right next to each other though. So we'll leave a little gap in there and we'll do this sort of thing. And I'd like to do the same just over here if I can get away with it, which I might be able to do. Might have to do a little bit of terraforming here just to make this work the way I would want it to. But basically, I mean, if I turn anarchy on, I can kind of just do this. And I want this, just the one little bit of gap between these. I can connect it to this road, and this road. And we can just have this be another little set of suburban roads, which I think will be lovely. We can also maybe use the complex curve tool to see if I can do something interesting here. So if I bring this guy up a little bit, I actually probably don't need the complex curve tool for this. I can probably just use the regular one and do something like that. This guy is going to be sort of a similar story. We'll bring it out kind of this way and line it up as best we can, which is going to be right about there. And we're not quite getting the gap in there that I'd be looking for, but that's not the end of the world. We'll do kind of a similar thing over here, bring this over, bring it up to there, and that seems fine. We have all this space to play with as well, which I think we probably should play around with actually. So what if we were to come in here with a little road? Let's see. Can I get this to line up nicely? I think I maybe can't because of all the guidelines. So instead, let's just bring it over from here. My gate, okay, doesn't want to work now. All right, there we go. Now it's working. So now we'll bring this over. We can leave a little bit of a gap, maybe bring this guy down. And do I just want to punch straight through here? I could reasonably just get rid of whatever building's there and punch straight through. It is a little bit of commercial zoning, but it's not essential for the area. So I think maybe given that there's not that much traffic, we'll go straight through there. We could do sort of similar here as well. And that could maybe just be another cluster of commercial buildings. As for over here, I'm almost wondering if we want to do kind of a similar thing. Maybe come out this way and just connect it over to this little space, get a nice curve going there. Might not be a bad idea. You know, this already looks like such an improvement over the farms. And I know that the roundabouts at the end of these roads have been, we'll say, controversial. I remember when I first built them down here, some of the comments were like, hey, you maybe don't need to do that. You don't, you know, it's a cul-de-sac. You don't need it. I like it. I just like it. I just think it looks cool. It just makes it look like the little bulb at the end of a cul-de-sac. I just like the look of it. So that's what we're doing. Now, what I would like to do is I want to come in here and I want to do a little mix of things when it comes to the commercial zoning. So we're going to start with a little bit of European commercial zoning. I'm not going to go too big on these buildings. I want to just do something like this. We'll switch over to North American. We'll do something like this. And we'll try and hopefully let these build, and they are building, which is great news. We can do another North American one, maybe in this corner. We can switch over to European and try and get something a little bit larger in this space, which we can absolutely do. We can go back to European for down here as well. And that gives us a couple of buildings. So that's just a bunch of commercial zoning for that entire space, a bunch of shopping for anyone that's living in this area. We've got medical, we've got leafy greens, we've got Big Feet Incorporated, we've got Treasure Trove. That'd be such a, oh man, having a comic book store right in the middle of your neighborhood would be so good. And then we've got Something and All, no idea what that is, and we got another medical place. So we got 2 medical places, we got a comic book store. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. I do want to get a little bit of parking in here. We do, I think, have some over here. We don't. Okay. Well, we can do a little bit of parking just here because that is going to be necessary. And I think what we can also do is make those sidewalks a little bit chunkier so people aren't going to be parking right in front of the stores. I don't think we want them doing that. I kind of want them using the parking lot. And I'm kind of thinking I want to do a little something here. Just one more commercial building next to that. What's it going to be? It is chemical. Okay, I don't really want a chemical place. What have we got this time around? It is going to be, furniture. Okay, we'll go with a furniture store. I guess that's fine. And then for the rest of this, I mean, we could do some houses here. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Maybe what we do is we make that bit of the sidewalk a bit fatter. We make this bit of the sidewalk have some grass on it. And maybe that's the idea for all of this. We do some grass, we do some trees. We make those, you know, all nice looking at some point, and then we just put some houses across the way. I think that's maybe the way to go here. I'm not going to be too picky about what way the houses go. It is going to be the European houses because I think I've explained before that the North American ones have way too much concrete. So not going to be dealing with those. I am curious though, do we have any decent signature buildings that we can play with? Unfortunately, it looks like we've used most of the mansions already. We have got these guys. I would like to play with those. It's a little bit of, you know, bonus well-being in the area. Similar with these guys, that's +8 well-being within 2 kilometers. That's a pretty big deal, but they don't really fit in with the neighborhood. We don't have anything here. We have this office signature building, which we should probably play with at some point, but again, it doesn't really fit the style. And we have this building as well. We should play around with both of these. This is +1 attractiveness citywide and +8 well-being within 1.3 kilometers. It's art and high-end housing that go hand in hand in this building, a multi-floored gallery space at the bottom, completed by luxury residences above. We can play with this on the other side of the river once I get this all zoned and built. Now, something I would like to do is play around with these surfaces. This is something I've really not touched on at all yet, and I'm very excited to do this because this is such a cool way of doing surfaces. What I can also do is go in here and actually modify the surfaces on an existing thing. So this park, for example, we can go in and we can change it up a little bit. So I'm going to just bring, I'm going to add a node to this surface here if it's going to let me do that, which it absolutely is. Because what I want to do is just bring this down, and I want to bring this one sort of down as well. I basically want to have this grass surface kind of follow the road here. And I think that'd be a pretty great idea. So bring it down like this. We can leave that bit a little bit darker. Maybe it's not part of the park. But then over here, I want to somehow make this work. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do it yet, but just sort of bring this guy back a little bit and then somehow snap it to all of this. I don't know if I love the look of that just yet, but it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've ever done. I'm going to have to do some landscaping here to make it look a little bit better, but I just want to sort of extend this out, maybe try and include the the dog park in this whole thing. Or maybe what I should do is get rid of the dog park and we can sort of flatten the land first. That would probably make a bit of sense. So we'll bring the strength up a little bit. We'll go and bring the brush is probably fine. Honestly, bring the brush size down a little, actually. So we'll just flatten this out as best we possibly can for the time being. I think I'll bulldoze this and replace it just so we get the default layout on all of the grass. So this thing's going to live here. And then I want to get the dog park. And basically the dog park needs to go in here somewhere. So I'm going to turn anarchy on for a second because I can place it like this. And then I can just grab it and I can relocate it. Hopefully, if I turn off all of the grid snapping, it will stay at the angle that I want, which is this right here. And then what I can do is just relocate this guy so it is a little bit further down this way. And my hope is it absolutely does. It connects to the road. So that gives us a dog park that's kind of a part of this other park, which I'm totally okay with. Although I'm kind of looking at it and thinking if I could just shuffle it back the teeniest, tiniest little bit to get the grass to line up, which that's probably good enough there. I don't mind that. We can go ahead and maybe just soften the terrain now to make it look a little bit better around here. And then what I'll do is, well, maybe this bit should stay elevated, actually. Maybe we just keep the entire thing elevated until I'm done. That might be a better idea. Just keep it all elevated until I've got to a place where I feel like it's ready to go, like it's done. Okay, whatever this is will do the job. I'm just going to go ahead and zone the rest of this. We do actually have a little bit of medium density commercial or residential demand creeping in. We also seem to have had a lot of these buildings in here rebuild now, which is a little bit concerned. Is that the buildings? Oh, the skyscrapers are gone completely. That's not ideal, but at the very least, I mean, it's clearing things up. We're seeing some of this space repopulate, which is lovely. So hopefully whatever issue was going on there is kind of resolved. But let's go ahead and get some EU low density housing in here. I'm just gonna completely fill this entire space with a whole bunch of that zoning. I'm really not too concerned with what the layout ends up looking like. It'd be nice to have buildings that kind of match and that kind of work together and that don't look terrible, but it's not really the reality of how City Skylines 2 works, unfortunately. What I could do is something like that, though. And then over here, I could do this. I could do this. I can tear these guys out. I can at least get some buildings into these spaces that are, I don't know, more interestingly sized. We'll let this build. We'll see what it looks like. It's going to just, I mean, realistically, it's going to just look more like this. Also, what level are you? Ooh, I didn't realize we had a bunch of level 5 housing out here. That's very cool. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Very happy about that. We got some pretty big lots coming in over here as well. Still plenty of low density residential demand as well, which I absolutely adore. So I'll tell you what, let me just fill up these spaces. I'm not really going to be too concerned with how it looks. And I think what I'd also like to do, just before they get too carried away, is I would like to come in here with some paths. So let me tear this guy out of here. Let me get this guy out of here. And we can get a path somewhere through here. We can maybe snake down through here, through there. And I'll tell you what, we'll go through there as well. So you're going to go away. This guy is unfortunately going to have to go away as well. So that all needs to go. And then we can get paths that sort of link to everything else as well. So take this one out. Yeah, that'll be good. I think that's what we're looking for. We want to just get some really, really nice walkable space in here. So while these guys are all building, let me go ahead and do that. So with the paths in there, the only thing I want to do now is get some vegetation around all of this. And there is a place multiple option with the tree brush that I have here. And that's going to let me place a whole bunch of wild deciduous trees that I'm very much keen to do. So I'm just going to go around here and try and cover this space with a whole bunch of them and try and make this thing just look as good as it possibly can. I think I'm going to do the same thing here, going right up to the edge of the water so that we kind of have this forest just going around all of this space. We'll do the same thing kind of down here. And I think that looks pretty solid, honestly. Not going to go too crazy with this part, but we will get a few more trees in there just to shake it up a little bit, and hopefully a couple into these spaces as well. There we go. I think that looks good. I think it's relatively straightforward. It's just another suburb. It dealt with a bit of the demand that we had. We can bring some extra trees around all of this as well. And I am, ooh, wrong button. I am kind of okay with that. I don't love these little junctions, but I think that's a nice little expansion of Linden Crest as a district. Although I would very much like to see where the border of that district is, because I do think we might want to expand it ever so slightly. So let's just bring this up to here. We'll get rid of you. We'll bring this right up to the edge of the water. We can probably just go ahead and do something like this. Just bring the district right out into the water so that it covers absolutely everything there. We'll bring it up to the road, and that seems fine. That's a decent way to do it. That includes all of these guys. That means they have service coverage, which is absolutely fantastic. And that is a nice little boost to the population. Nothing crazy, nothing too fancy, but still a nice little boost to the population regardless. Now, I will say this annoys me, seeing that we have 35,811 people eligible for elementary schools. Our capacity is currently 22,000. If we zoom out, most of those little blips, I think all of those little blips you can see, well, maybe not all of them, most of them are elementary schools. We have got a lot of elementary schools around here, and apparently it's not enough. I don't know if I have the mod. Oh yeah, I forgot we did this. I don't know if I have the mod that rebalances elementary schools. I think I'm going to need it, and I think that's part of why my population's being a little bit weird right now. But I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I want to come into this space, and I want to start filling it up with some zoning. I'm actually considering leaving this space to be another giant park. I think it'd be really nice to have just some green space in there, but we'll figure that out. I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that, but at the very least, I would like to bring a road just across here. I think that would be a great idea. And I think doing the same thing on this side would also be a great idea. Now, I don't think I can cut through here by any means. I'd need to change up that train track a little bit, which is possible. It's completely doable. I don't think I'm going to, but I could by all means. I think I'll also extend this guy up to about here instead. So this kind of lines up. It's not perfect, but it's not the end of the world either. I think at this side of things, we probably could connect these guys, which might not be the worst idea. Actually, just run that straight through there. So we have this space, which can be used for some residential zoning. We have this space down here that we can extend into, and this could also reasonably be a park. I don't want to get too crazy with green space, because at the end of the day, I mean, we have demand for commercial, we have demand for residential, we have demand for offices. We do need to be using our space rather than just using it for decorations. So kind of need to be mindful of that, and kind of need to be mindful of the fact that I need to not be too crazy with all of this. But I'm wondering, can I get a road through here that is going to do what I want it to do? So if I bring you straight out, it's not really wanting to behave by the looks of it, which is kind of frustrating. Can I get it to it all? No, it just doesn't want to line up. I don't get why it won't line up with the grid. There we go. So now it's lined up with the grid. I want to bring this guy down to essentially intersect that road. And that's going to be our, ooh, I was going to say that's going to be a little corner, but apparently not. That looks terrible. Let's just, let's tidy that up a little bit. Okay, so this works for a very basic road layout for what I want to do here. And what I want to do here specifically is I want to play around with some row housing. It is medium density, which is a bit of a problem because we don't need medium density, but we can hopefully make that work. I'm also going to go for some North American high density business on some of these roads, because I figure we probably don't want to zone directly on the avenues. At least we probably don't want to zone residential directly on these avenues. I'm not 100% sure exactly what way this is going to work just yet. I haven't figured that out, but at the very least, we're going to do a little bit of this. I might go a bit smaller on these roads, on these, this zoning actually, because then if I did this, I could potentially put a road back here and sort of double up my zoning. Let me use these to measure. So if I did this, that'd be what, 4, and I could do a path and then do another 4. Actually, no, if I did a road there, yeah, if I did a road there, I could double up a whole bunch of row housing. I I kind of want to try this. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I want to give it a shot because what I'm thinking is North American medium density row housing basically here and then down here as well. And that just kind of makes sense to me. I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's what I'm going to try and do. I'm also going to do this for these guys. So I'm going to let this build and we're going to see how this plays out. I also need to de-zone those because that is not how I want that to build at all. We also got a bunch of small, oh, that's not what I want. That is not what I want right there. You can go away. This entire stretch of zoning kind of needs to go. I think we'll get rid of this one as well. Make these buildings slightly smaller. Going to be a bunch of small buildings along this road, which is going to be interesting. Also a bunch of smaller row houses. I'm not looking for that. Absolutely not looking for the tiny row houses. I'm looking for the decent sized ones. There we go. So those are all decent sizes. This will build up eventually once we get the demand for it. What do you get out of here? That is not what I'm looking for. This is also not really playing the way I hoped it would, but fair enough. We'll leave that be. I can do a path through this space, which I'm not against doing. I can hopefully see. What are you complaining about? What do you mean ground pollution? Why is there ground pollution there? Which one of these is ground? That one's ground pollution. Have I got all my overlays turned off? I think I have all my overlays turned off. Okay, you know what? It's fine. I'll take his word for it. That would explain why these guys aren't building. Oh, you know what? I kind of forgot how much I don't like just the regular North American or any of the commercial buildings really. So I'm just going to bulldoze all of these. Every single one of them can go. And I'm going to replace them with I don't know if I want to do EU mixed housing. I think we'll do North American mixed housing because I think it's going to look a little bit better. And we'll just sort of replace all of them really with a whole bunch of mixed use zoning. So we'll go for something like this. We'll take out that bit just so it lines up. I don't know if this will actually build because I don't know what's polluted in here and what isn't. But at the very least, it seems like we're getting a pretty good spread of buildings. So I'm thinking that's going to end up looking better. I'm also thinking that the row houses, I mean, they're all right. They don't quite have the charm of the European ones, if I do say so myself, but I think they are fine. I'm kind of willing to allow it is what I'm going to be for now. I'm also thinking I might go in here with, what do I want to go for? Do I want to do some birch trees across this road here? I think that might be a pretty good shout. So just a bunch of birch trees sort of across here. We'll bring this number up to about 10 meters, 10.3 meters between them ideally. And maybe instead of right against the road, we go back a little bit. So we'll have something kind of like this. And we can do the same down this side of the road as well. So from about there to about there seems pretty solid. This side's going to have some kind of path going around the buildings. I don't know if that's going to be needed, to be completely honest with you. I don't know if it is at all, but it's what we're going to go for. We're getting some complaints about pollution over here as well, which I don't love, but again, we're getting some decent buildings in here. It is bringing that population up a little bit, and it's hopefully going to deal with some of the complaints that we were having. We still don't have any of my skyscrapers rebuilt, which I am a little concerned about. I'm not going to lie. What if we took this opportunity to replace those skyscrapers with offices? That might not be a terrible idea. What if we said that this one, since they, wanted to go all abandoned and whatnot, can just be a couple of office skyscrapers, and those are building instantly, which is fantastic news. So I think that's exactly what we'll do. We'll take out the zoning here and maybe do something a bit different. Maybe something like this and something like this. We can have that kind of open space around the around some of the skyscrapers. We can go in here with a little bit of landscaping, really. Just make it look a little bit more pleasant to be around. Do some trees, do some plazas, do some all of that good stuff. I'm so good at words, me. I'm so good at words. Yeah. I think that's what we'll do. I think we'll do some landscaping in here just while we're here, just very quickly. I want to get some of this. Do I want to use concrete surfaces? Do I want to use, what do I want to use around this? Oh, I can change this. That's pretty cool. I don't want to change that. Wait, can I do wait, what is this? Pavement surface? Is this a road surface? No, it's just pavement. Okay. How do I How do I get rid of these again? I think I just have to delete the nodes, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think I want to do some grass around it. Just some regular old fancy looking grass around these towers here. Just to go for something a little bit different. We can do some cool landscaping. We can do some trees, all that good stuff. So we'll brighten that up a little bit. We'll do the same thing in here to brighten this space up a little bit. And we'll do the same thing in here just to brighten all of this space up as well. I'm hoping these towers aren't going to be identical. If they are, I mean, that's fine, I guess. But I do like that. I think that's pretty good. I think that's a good shout. And we can probably come back here and do exactly the same thing. Yeah, I can just actually grab this guy and extend that grass back. And I can grab it on this side and extend it back to there as well, which I think is a good shout. Kind of fills up the space. We could bring it over this way and also bring it over on this side. So again, it fills up the space. And then over here, do we have the same choice? We absolutely do, which is absolutely perfect. So let me grab this, bring it back. Let me grab this and bring it back. And it just helps to fill the space. Are they identical? They absolutely are. Of course they are. That's fine. Honestly, it's not the end of the world. It at the very least adds something to my skyline. Let's do some trees in here, and then let's go take a look at all the stuff we just built and see how it's coming along. And the answer is that it is definitely coming along. That's one way to look at it. It's definitely, well, trying to. These mixed-use buildings, man, they're not great. They're not. I would like them to level up a little bit though, and I think they'll be better. So I'll tell you what we're gonna do. I was thinking of making this entire space a park. I'm still kind of thinking of making this entire space a park, but I do also want it to be usable. So I'm almost wondering if it would be worth using things like the large plaza, maybe a couple of them, just to sort of bring this thing together. So if we put one there, for example, and then I put another one sort of down here. I need to turn anarchy off to make sure that the trees that are already there do go away. But if I do a couple of those, I can potentially go in and have to get rid of that grass texture because I don't think it's the same on both of them. It isn't. Unless I just take a second and keep replacing this until I get the grass texture that I want, which is definitely an option. We can definitely do that. There's the grass texture that I'm looking for. Basically, my thinking is I can have both of these here, and then I can potentially go in and make them part of a larger park. Although in saying that, I don't think I can actually get rid of... I'd really like to get rid of that fence. If I could get rid of the fence around this, it would be perfect. But unfortunately, I don't think I can get rid of the fence, which means that it's always going to look like this. Yeah, this idea might not work out the way I was hoping it would. We might have to come up with something else. At the very least, I want to get rid of all these trees very quickly. So I think what I'll do here is still try to create some kind of park. I think we're just going to use some pedestrian streets and try and make this thing quite a walkable space. So we're going to be able to put things in here like the actual parks. And then we can also have people, well, we can have, you know, vehicles that need to go through here can actually drive through here, which I'd rather they didn't, but it's, you know, sometimes they're going to need to, which is completely fine. So we'll bring a road just straight over here, bring this guy straight up and through there. That gives us a nice little connection down this way. Do I want to connect down through these buildings? I don't know that I do. I don't know that I need to. I think I would like to do this though. Just bring this road straight over this way. We'll turn off the snapping to the geometry or the grid thing. So that gives us a bit of space on this side, a bit of space on that side. Maybe we should punch straight through here. Just so we have that little bit of symmetry. I can do some pedestrian paths across there, which I think will be all right. This is, what distance are we looking at? That is, how many units are we looking at? I guess that isn't going to necessarily tell me. That's totally fine, I guess. We can go from here, and I'd like to try and measure this out. That looks to be about the same, I think, because I want to just do a little curve on that. I think it would look better if we have this actually just sort of curve around rather than sort of snap around. So we'll go for this, and I do think that does look a fair bit better. I don't love what's going on there, though. So is that something I can... Is that something I can fix? That sort of is. I don't know what's going on with that. So I think before we get too carried away with zoning, not zoning this, but building things in here, I do want to come down this way and just work a little bit more on a few more of the buildings that we're going to be wanting. I do want more mixed use housing in here. We are going to stick with North American for it as well. So we'll just bring that down to here and we'll let that entire thing build. This road down here, by all means, it's going to have some noise pollution on it. I don't think that people are going to love that, but they will hopefully be able to tolerate. What is going on with my accent today? Tolerate it. We'll also get some row houses down here as well. I might just do row houses the entire way across there. Although it looks like we also have pollution problems still going on, so maybe not. That's maybe something we can't do. Although, I'm also kind of wondering if I was to do a little something with an alleyway here, could I get a bit more zoning going on? And I want to say that I probably could. I could do down about 10 there. And yes, it's going to block off the zoning on that lower road, but that's actually completely fine. That gives us all of this space in here to play with. That means I can probably go ahead and take out the zoning here just to make sure this all plays nicely with each other. So take out you guys completely. And that seems fine. And then for the rest of this, it looks like we've got a few more small buildings in here. I really don't want those. But for the rest of this, we can do, what is it? 4, 5. It's actually going to be a different size for each. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Bring it across there. We'll bring it across here as well. We can fill up these end spaces as soon as they start building. We can do some trees or a path or something in here just to kind of bring it all together. And that seems like a decent-ish space. I don't know that I don't know that I love all these row houses, but they'll do for the time being. I'm kind of just wanting to grow the population a little bit to try and balance out some of the problems that we're having. And while I'm doing this, actually, I want to bring up a question because it's something I've been thinking about for a little while. And it's something I was considering. I don't know if I brought it up in the Let's Talk About City Skylines 2 video. I really don't remember exactly what I did and didn't. Well, I know what I said, but there were a few other things I considered saying that I held back on because I didn't think it was really constructive to the conversation. But I have been thinking about whether or not we should look at moving on to another city. And I say that with all the love in the world for Linden as a city. I love what I've done with this whole thing. I love looking at this skyline. It's not perfect. And obviously I still haven't done anything over here. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If we do decide to do this, Linden probably won't get finished, at least not until maybe we revisit it in a few months or something like that. This isn't me saying that this is going to be like the last episode of this series either. Make no mistake. That's not where I'm coming from. I've just been considering the idea that maybe part of my personal problem with City Skylines 2 is that I have just been playing this one city. I didn't start other cities. I know other people did, and I know other people have multiple cities, and I know a lot of the players have made several cities, not just the creators on YouTube. This is the only city that I've built. This is the only city that I've really played with. So in a way, it's kind of reasonable that I might be a little bit fed up with it because I haven't tried anything beyond this one city. So I'm definitely considering the idea that maybe part of my problem with City Skylines 2 is self-inflicted, and that it might be a good idea to just change things up a little bit. Just, go and start another city and see what kind of trouble we can get into. See what kind of chaos we can cause in another city. I think that'd be kind of fun at some point. I don't want to abandon Linden. Make no mistake. I really don't. This isn't another classic abandoned ConflictNerd series. It's really not that. I just can't help but wonder. That's kind of where it comes from. It's this sense of, wait, how did I elevate this? Have I just used the wrong thing for all of these? Did I just elevate them? No, I wanted to turn them into keys. And they sort of are. This one isn't though, which is weird, but I think the rest of them are, which is totally fine. Yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. Is I'm I'm thinking out loud a little bit is what I'm doing. I'm thinking out loud as to whether or not it would be worth starting up another thing and seeing what we can do. And in saying that, I guess my worry there is that one of the complaints that I've seen about City Skylines 2 is that it is very difficult to build cities that look like they are anything other than sort of generically North American. And that's fine. Most of my, none of my cities are particularly inspired at the best times, so it's not the end of the world. But I don't want to sit down and be like, I'm going to build a European city, and then it just looks exactly like this. So I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. Like I said, it's just a bit of thought process, just something I'm thinking about. Whether or not I'm going to do it, I have no idea, but I just wanted to let you know it's something I'm definitely having to think about at the moment. So we'll see if that ends up being something we do, or if that ends up being something we don't do. Either way, let's take a look at this park and see what we can do with it. I think getting some buildings in here seems like a really great idea. It can tie together with this sort of green space we have cutting down through the main part of the city. And we can probably do some buildings in here as well, just to start building around those train tracks. So very, very quickly, actually, let's go ahead and get a road coming down here, which lines up really nicely with everything. Can I get a road going underneath here? I mean, there is a pillar in the way, which is kind of a problem. So maybe we don't do that. Maybe actually we do a little alleyway. That way we don't have to worry about that pillar. That might be the way to go on this. That actually works kind of perfectly. We'll do one here as well. It kind of fills up the space really nicely. We've got some symmetry going on. I actually kind of like that. And that's going to make for some good zoning. So very quickly, let's take a look at what we need. We need commercial. We need medium density residential. We've got North American mixed use. So we'll tell you what, let's do a bit of North American mixed use on all of these main roads. So we'll bring it all the way down to about there. I think for all of that, we can bring it across here as well. We don't want it on the tracks though. We need to keep that in mind. And then for these bits in the middle, I'm inclined to say that, I mean, low rent housing, I don't think we need. Commercial zoning, we definitely do. We definitely need some dedicated commercials. So maybe that's something we should take a look at here, is just filling up some of this space with a chunk of dedicated commercial zoning. That's probably for the best. So we'll do like that, I think. And we can do some paths underneath the train tracks. We can do, why are these guys not building on that road? What's going on there? That's actually really strange. Hold on a minute. Let me try and fix that. I need them to build like that first. This bit's okay. And then these bits in here can now be filled up with something, maybe. I've got no idea. It's not going to be any huge buildings, but that's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted to fill the space. Now we can look at the park. And I think the first thing I want to do is I want to just sort of outline it with some paths. And I don't want to, well, actually, you know, the first thing I should do? The first thing I should do is get some actual park assets in here so that it's kind of functional. So we'll turn anarchy off, and I want this and this so that we just have something. Yes, they're on hills, and no, I don't love that, but it just gives us something in the middle that makes this thing functional. And I think that's important. And I think what we can also do is grab just this corner here, bring it right up. We can grab this corner here, bring it right up to there. And so we fill that entire space with that lovely, there's a word for it that I can't remember, but it's just that really nice looking grass that has the lines on it. It's really killing me that I can't remember the exact word for it, but there is a word to describe that style of grass. It's eluding me. It'll probably come back to me after I finish the episode, which is going to drive me crazy. If I remember while I'm editing this, I'll put it on the screen, but I probably won't. It'll be when I'm uploading it. That's when I'm going to remember what it's called. It's on the tip of my tongue. I think this is a pretty good start, but I've just remembered that I wanted to place this signature building, and I'm kind of thinking that in here is sort of an interesting spot for it. It is a multi-floor gallery space at the bottom with luxury residences above, and so I don't know if putting it next to a skate park is necessarily the right shout. But I think it would be interesting to have this thing essentially inside of the park in one way or another. So I'm almost wondering if I should put it on sort of this corner up here, or put it maybe like right in the park itself. I don't know if that's actually something that looks all that good, because it does just have these very flat, I mean, it's kind of designed to be amongst wall-to-wall buildings, clearly, because it's just flat walls on either side. So, I mean, really, maybe what we do with it is put it in one of these spaces instead. So maybe it can live kind of on one of these corners. It could live between a bunch of these buildings. That might be a better shout than anything else I could do with it. So I'll tell you what, let's take out a bunch of buildings here. We'll take out all of those and we'll place this thing as best as we can. That's probably good enough there. I think we'll go for here instead though. And we'll just take out that little bit of zoning because it's not going to play all that nicely with it. And we'll see how that goes. So if I let those buildings come up, I think that is going to look better because it is going to have those buildings right next to it now. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with that. It's a decent spot for it, but we do have another one. We have this guy. We just unlocked Fashion Square, which is 1% less import cost citywide, plus 5 well-being within a kilometer, and plus 1% attractiveness citywide. This thing is a large retail space for all of my citizens' needs. I'm kind of looking at this space down here and thinking it'd be interesting. We could potentially just turn this into a larger kind of retail space if we really wanted to. Although I'm also kind of looking at this corner and thinking maybe that's what we do. Kind of a nice big retail space on the corner of the park. We could do some parking next to it. I think that's how we go with this. So let's grab this guy. We'll throw it right about there. It's an interesting looking building. It's not necessarily anything like I thought it was going to be, but it's definitely interesting looking. And then I think what we'll do is, can I get a parking lot next to it? Do we have the space for a parking lot next to this guy? We actually do, which is great news. I don't know if I love the idea of putting a parking lot right there. Could do a little smaller one down next to it here. That wouldn't necessarily hurt. I don't think that's going to be enough parking for the building though, but I think that's what we're going to do is go with a slightly smaller parking lot. And then around this thing, I want to do some of the fancy grass. So if I go in here and I grab this, what I'm hoping is that I can just drag this out and blend it all together. So this whole thing kind of comes together into just something a bit fancier. And you know what? I'm kind of here for it. I think that looks pretty solid. It definitely ties all of this together. I don't love the fences around the parking lot. Really not a fan of that, but it's not really anything I can do about it. So we're just going to have to live with it, unfortunately. I would like to do just a few bushes alongside all of this though, if I possibly can. Let's bring this right down to 2.3 meters between them. We'll get them along the pedestrian road and we'll get them along the path back here as well. Just to really try and get this whole thing to look as nicely detailed as possible. It should be kind of a nice department store. Maybe that's kind of the vibe that we're going for. Something a little fancy, something a little, I don't know, something that just should be here, right? It's basically going to be in our central park. So by all means, it should be kind of fancy. Okay, so I think the next thing we need to do with this is get more of these cultivated green bushes just around the outside of the entire thing. I think that just helps it look a little fancier. I don't want to go for just a solid line of them. I think going for this slightly broken line just makes it look that bit better. And I'm realizing that going around any curves with this is going to be a bit of a pain. I know there is a curve tool to the tree line tool, prop line tool, whatever we call it. I don't know what the mods are called in this game. That's something I'm kind of, that's in a weird way, that's something I'm kind of missing the most about Cities Skylines. And I guess it's a sense that familiarity with a game that I've played for 9 years nearly, which is weird to think about in itself. But with Cities Skylines 1, and I'm not going to try and turn this into another, you know, let's talk about Cities Skylines 2, but I think the Steam Workshop being a thing helped to make the mods a bit more familiar in a weird way, because at the moment, all of the mods, at least all the mods I'm using, are through Thunderstore. And Thunderstore seems great. It installs them. just about as easily as the Steam Workshop did, and I'm sure Paradox Mods will do kind of the same thing. At least I would hope it would do about the same thing, because if it doesn't at this point, that's going to be a really, really, you know what, we're not going to get into it. Yeah, we all know. I think we're all aware that Paradox Mods kind of needs to be great. It just kind of does. It just sort of does. Anyway, the long and short of it is I don't know what any of the mods are called in Cities Skylines 2. And that's such a weird, that's not the fault of Cities Skylines 2. Don't get me wrong. It's just weird. It's weird going from the first one and being like, oh, I know, you know, Traffic Manager President Edition and Node Controller and all the other mods. Yes, I'm naming 2 of them and then being like, and the rest. But it is a weird feeling. It is weird going from that sense of familiarity and being like, yeah, I know all of the mods, to a place where I'm like, yeah, I know basically none of them. I don't know how they work. I don't know what they're called. I don't know if I care. It's weird. It is a really weird feeling. It's a weird one, because I feel like I should be familiar with it. And I think that's what the problem is, right? I've played the first one for 9 years, and then I go into the second one and I'm just like, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. And that, I mean, look, in and of itself, that makes sense, right? It is a different game, to be fair. It's not the same as the first one, but it is a very strange feeling knowing next to nothing about the names of the mods that I'm using pretty much every time I play this. But anyway, let's get some more trees in here. Let's try to make this thing look as good as we possibly can. And I mean, every time I say that, it is just a case of throwing as many trees at the thing as I possibly can, because I do think they help to, I don't know, they help things along a little bit. They help make it look like more of a defined park, which is what I'm going for. And I do like that. I don't know if I love the fact that I have that nice green grass in there and then nothing in these spaces. I might end up changing that up, but I'm kind of thinking what I might do with those spaces first is just get some paths going through there so that people can kind of wander through. I might do like a really dense forest looking thing with basically just some pedestrian paths sort of snaking through it. I think that would look cool, but I also feel like we need 1 or 2 more things in here before we're gonna just throw a bunch of trees at it. And I don't know what to throw in here. I was looking at things like the Fountain Plaza, and I wonder, it's 1.6 million. What does it look like? Does that look okay there? If I was to try and relocate this thing, so if I wanted to relocate it and if I wanted to have it sort of here, but sort of with snapping off, the entrance is there at the bottom. Can I get this thing to connect in a way that's kind of satisfying to look at? I don't know that I necessarily can, but I might try and do this anyway. I might try and get it roughly there. And I think that's fine. And then I want to see, can I connect the rest of those paths to this thing? Is that, it is something I can, oh, now we're talking. Okay. So bring this up here and bring it to that little part there. Bring this sort of up this way and to that connection. And then this one can come out and sort of go down here and over something like that. And that's fine. It's a weird looking building. It also doesn't have a road connection right now, apparently, because it's not close enough to anything. That's, you know, I kind of wish I'd noticed that before I built the paths. And you know, throwing just a few trees and bushes around this in a big circle, on one hand makes it look great. On the other hand, makes it look like a summoning circle for something. And I'm gonna zoom in. I'm intentionally not zooming into this right now. I'm gonna zoom into it and I'm gonna let you listen to the sound that this thing makes. I don't know where this came from. I think this is something I found a code for recently. I think this was like a pre-order thing or a deluxe thing. I have no idea. I found a code recently and I have this now. I'm also wondering if that means I have the other types of buses, which I'm actually kind of curious about. If I look at my bus lines very quickly right here, do I have a different type of bus? Electric bus? I do. I've got the Colossal Order buses now, which is great. So yeah, I didn't have those previously. I have those now. Listen to this thing. It's gross. It's just not a pleasant sound. It's not. I'm sorry. It's It's a really, really unpleasant sound. I don't know how to feel about it. So this is kind of what I was talking about with the weird winding paths, and I kind of like this. It's a little reminiscent of what I did way back with the paths around the, what is this, the college? Yeah, it's sort of similar to what I did down here. It's kind of a little nod to the weird sort of random patterns that I did. I'm also thinking I want to bulldoze this because we could replace that with a botanical garden, and I think that looks much better. I think it's a lot more interesting looking in the middle of the park, and it also gives me this space back here to do more path stuff because I think that big empty green space was just a little much. So we'll do a path across here, and we're basically going to do exactly the same thing that we've already done. We're going to do a bunch of random patterns, and we're going to make this look sort of interesting, and then I'm going to probably just fill this entire thing with a whole bunch of trees. That's kind of what I'm looking to do with most of this, is just fill the entire thing with a bunch of trees and hope for the best, really. So we'll go ahead and just do a little something like this. I think that looks kind of cool. We can come down here slightly and out and around. And again, this is just giving us sort of those random patterns that I've been talking about, similar to what we did over at the college. So it just loops around, it winds around, not really any reason to it. I'm just kind of doing this as I kind of feel like we can do a little curve, a little something. So we'll turn off the angle snapping here and try and get this to line up there, which I kind of like. And part of me thinks we could fill this space with a path. We could do something like that, but I'm going to leave it open is what I'm going to do. I think that's pretty solid. Obviously this is a little bit more, well, it's a lot more, you know, bunch of straighter paths in there, but this is just going to be full of trees. And that's, I think, going to be the bulk of what this park is going to be. It's just going to be a big green space in the middle of the city. And I'm okay with that because that's kind of the type of contrast that I like. So we'll go for wild deciduous, and I'm really tempted to leave anarchy on so that I can have these placed as close together as is possible. It is going to place them on the paths, but I can go in there and I can tidy that up. My only concern in doing that is that it might get a little bit chaotic. It might start putting them in there as well, which I don't love the idea of. So let's see. A custom tool for changing the ages of existing trees. That's kind of neat. Change tree type. Huh. Not really what I'm looking for, but fair enough. Can I make the trees a bit younger? I absolutely could. Can I make them dead? I have no idea. Let's go for teen. Well, you know what? We'll go for adult trees so I can get a good idea of what this is going to look like. And I guess we're going to leave anarchy off when we're doing this just to try and have it behave. Okay. I think we're probably good here. I think we're done for the time being. There's a few areas I'd like to touch up a little bit. I don't love this cluster of buildings in here, for example, but I do really enjoy how this has turned out. It's just this big old green space in the middle of absolutely everything. We got the botanical garden in there. We have ourselves a large plaza. We have the fountain plaza as well. And we do have plenty of people walking around here as well. We've also got some service vehicles coming through, which is totally fine. I'm not seeing too many people using these paths, but honestly, that's not really the end of the world. There's a few people using these ones. There's plenty of people using these ones as well. So I think this is just a really nice addition to the space, and it's good. It gives people somewhere to go and hang out, and that's kind of what I like about it. I've got this empty space here that I don't know what to do with, and that's kind of bothering me. What do I want to do with this space? Do I want to just maybe throw some kind of surface down in there? We've got sand, we've got tiles. Let's just do some tiles and see what that would look like just to fill that space a little bit, since there's nothing in there right now. That is a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie. What if I was to get rid of the surfaces underneath? Can I not get rid of this? Is that not a thing I can do? Can I? Ooh, I don't think I can. Interesting. Okay. I was really hoping I could just get rid of the surfaces underneath these buildings, but I don't think I can. I'm sure there's a mod of some sort or other that will. Ooh. What is all of this? I got no idea. I'm sure there's a mod one way or other that would let me get rid of that. I'm sure it's a thing that I can do, but I think for the time being, we'll just maybe leave that there. and then maybe just replace the tiles with something else. I don't think it's the end of the world if we maybe just do that for now. Ooh, that's not what I was looking for. Let's just put you right back in there for now, and that'll be all right. I could have them meet in the middle. I could do something interesting, like have the two shades of concrete sort of overlap like this. That looks kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why I did that. You know what? Let me just bulldoze these, replace them, and we'll keep it simple. There we go. The fences might be different, but at least the concrete's the same, and we have a little outdoor gym in here as well that I think looks pretty good. So that's what we're going to go for. We don't need to make it any more complicated than that, and I think that's probably a good place to leave things for today. This has kind of been an expansion that's been a long time coming. I'm glad we got rid of the farms here as well. We're still making money. The population's at 191,000, and all of this ground pollution will go away eventually. We're just going to be waiting a bit because, well, that's kind of how City Skylines 2 works. Anyway, like I said, that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.